What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Scoop. Excited to be here tonight. Got a good show planned for you guys. Going to dive in to the juicy subject of tampering. And we all know that there are stories for days about what is going on in college football with tampering. Some new information recently dropped by the NCAA. We're going to dive into that. Me and Nevada are tonight. But before we do that, y'all, I need you to do me a favor. Please hit that like button. And listen, actually hit the like button. It's free. It's easy. I know it gets repetitive. I say it all the time, but it does a lot for the channel. So any YouTube person that you're liking, and you watch them all the time, hit that like button for man, and subscribe if you could as well. Super chats are open. Super chats go to our Pay It Forward, help our veterans out because they help us out so much. So we like to give to them as much as possible, and you guys can help with that with those super chats. So get those in, and we will get those answered and read tonight. Also, if you're listening on Spreaker and Apple Podcasts, shoot us a like on that. It's free, it's easy. And if you are not part of the Scoop message board, y'all are missing out. Nevada dropped a very good nugget on there today about a little bit about the Buckeye defense. I'm not going to dive into it, but I suggest subscribing to it. Give it a shot for a month or two. If you don't like it, just cancel it, but you're going to like it. It's good stuff over there. So without holding this thing up too much longer, let's bring in Nevada. Nevada, what's happening, man?
Oh man, just what a day! Exciting stuff going on all throughout the sports world. But NCAA making noise about dealing with tampering, something you and I have talked about many, many, many times, online, offline, sideline, because that's a huge issue, and it's fun to see that it's being addressed. But what were your thoughts there when you saw the NCAA putting out that information about starting to pay attention to tampering? Do you take this seriously, or where are you falling down on this whole thing?
Well, I mean, my first reaction is probably everybody else's first reaction is like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Whatever you say, NCAA, you're not going to do anything. But as we've said before, Nevada, you brought this up on other shows when we talk about eligibility. There are still certain things the NCAA cares about and has power over and can do something about it. So there's still a governing body that is respected to some level there. Like I always say, if they weren't, players wouldn't go to court over these issues. So there's still some level of respect. And mainly in the NIL era of things, the NCAA, can't do much there, because of courts, and there's areas where they don't. But I don't know. I mean, we've all heard the tampering stories. I mean, this year, something kind of unprecedented happened with Dabo Swinney coming out and pretty much reading text messages, reading proof live of the tampering that is going on. So I don't know. I think the NCAA is serious, and the NCAA is going to do something about it because they have to. But I also know that the NCAA is a joke. So, what about you, man? I'm gonna pull this up too. Let me pull up this Ross Dellinger tweet, so people can see what we're talking about.
Well, here's the thing with the NCAA, and I think that a lot of this kind of gets lost. You talk about the athletes taking the NCAA to court, and I don't think people realize the majority of time when the athletes take the NCAA to court, the NCAA wins. You just don't hear about those. You hear about the losses, and so I think people want to lock all that stuff into one thing and say, well, the NCAA lost on some NIL stuff. They lost on some stuff where, here's some eligibility ones that they're losing. Wow, the NCAA can't do anything. But they win the vast majority of those eligibility issues. And what the NCAA is basically, think of them as the police for the colleges. And the colleges tell them what they want to police. They give them direction about stuff that they care about. And one of the things that they care about, and one thing that's come out from the presidents, come out from the athletic directors, a directive to the NCAA is, we want you to cut back on the tampering. We want you to do something about the tampering. So this is, we can talk about the NCAA like it's some separate entity, but it's the entity that's been directed with providing order to the colleges from the colleges. So in this case, they're saying, we want you to crack down on the tampering. And how does tampering happen? Well, we all know these kids go in the portal, and then one day later they sign with school XYZ, and you say to yourself, "Wow, that sure escalated quickly." How did they know in one day that they wanted to move from SMU to Ole Miss? How in the world did that happen? I mean, I can't do I can't get my car washed in one day, let alone interview all the schools, find out what the offers are, figure out how are my grades going to transfer, whatever's going to go, and then transfer to that school. But somehow this stuff is happening instantaneously and overnight, which is a dead giveaway that there's tampering occurring outside of the lines. And the way that they're doing it is they're using the agents, they're using other people as kind of intermediaries that can have these conversations with them. And what the NCAA is saying now is, look, we are directed by the ADs and by the presidents that you can't use third party. You can't just hide behind the thing of, well, I didn't talk to school to Ole Miss. My agent Devin did. That's not okay. And so that if they can prove that this is going to, that this has happened, they'll declare the athlete ineligible, and they'll sanction the school. So to me, this is, I mean, this kind of, the Ross Dellinger tweet and got some attention and got something, but to me, this is an enormous deal. It's an enormous deal because tampering is something that it's so widespread and so prevalent. But the NCAA is always looking for these cases where they can kind of regain the high ground. They can, regain the moral high ground over these colleges. And this is one area where they have it because they've got the direction. It's clearly happening, and they want to punish the evildoers that are doing it. So I would as a fan, I would pay a lot of attention to this because this could come back on, and all it takes is a couple of players to be declared ineligible, a couple of schools to be hit with sanctions, and people are going to take this seriously. But someone is going to be made an example out of on this. I'm telling you, this will not just go through, quietly through the night where this sails through and the NCAA doesn't do it. Something's going to get hit on it, and you just better hope that your school is not the one where you spin the wheel of waffle and it lands on your school, because someone's going to get hammered when this stuff comes down.
Yeah. I mean, Nevada, if you look at the other areas, the cases in which the NCAA loses in court, it's always based off of an antitrust law or some state law or something else. When I look at this, I wish I was, could ask a lawyer this or something. In what way? I mean, this is the NCAA schools sign the contract. These are the rules. This is what you got to follow. Like, I wonder if the NCAA enforcing this tampering rule is in any type of violation of any state laws or anything like that. Right off the top of my dome, I would say no. Like, I would say it's probably not. These are just pretty straightforward black and white rules. And the other thing is, Nevada, is things get so wild that at least some fans that I've spoke to, Nevada, they get blurry on what tampering actually is. Like, I've talked to people that thought that a high school coach or an agent could talk to players not in the portal on behalf of another school and it not be tampering. That's not true. I mean, tampering is a coach, an agent, any boosters, essentially anybody that is talking to a player not in the portal on behalf of another team is players, ex players. That's considering tampering in the rule. And things get so blurry, and there's like these accepted things of, yes, we know agents are going to do it, yes, this. And it's one of those things is how do you monitor this? You know what I'm saying? How is the NCAA really going to monitor this? I don't think there's a way for them to actually catch everybody that's doing it. But there have been several examples that I have seen where there is blatant proof of tampering, coaches turning other coaches in, agents turning other agents in. Like, you can have that happen in the policing of this tampering thing. But I'm on board with you. I do think that this is going to start getting ramped up and things are going to start happening. And according to the NCAA rule in Nevada, there can be show cause penalties for coaches. There can be recruiting restrictions. scholarship reductions, competition bans, fines or probation for the program, and disassociation of involved boosters or collectives. So, literally, the NCAA can ban certain collectives and boosters from operating, and that would also be huge. So, there's several things the NCAA can do here. And let's just be honest about it, guys. This isn't a I don't know, Nevada. What do you think? Do you think this is a gray area of whether we think it's okay or not? I think it's fair to ask other teams not to tamper. Like I would love to watch college football and there not be any tampering. I don't think that that is a wild thing to ask. I don't think that that's egregious. It's simple being the player hostage. If he wants other offers, then enter the portal. If you don't, then stay at your team and nobody should contact him. Like that seems like a fair and normal thing to ask. Wouldn't you, or am I crazy?
Well, no, it's not. It's not a crazy thing to ask, and I think for you're look, you're never going to catch all of these cases, but you can catch some of them. And the way you catch some of them is if you have a player, and it's like that Duke quarterback transferring right away, and they feel like there's tampering going on. You can subpoena the Mark Pantoni of the offending school and say, send us all copies of all communications that you've had with anybody regarding player X. You know what I'm saying? And as you said, a lot of this time it's somebody else that turns them in. It's a disgruntled agent who didn't get the job. It's another player. It's an unhappy parent. I mean, there's a lot of places this stuff can come from. As well as internal stuff, because the NCAA doesn't, they're not God. They don't have like the power to snap their fingers like Thanos and have, every piece of documentation come flowing in there, but they can get some of it. And some of it, if it looks bad, and like we talked about these ones where these guys are transferring in one day, I mean, it happens all the time in the in NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball. If a player, free agency opens up and all of a sudden a player signs within 2 hours with a team, well, they know that there was tampering going on. There's been, really famous cases where they've gone in, found out that there was communication beforehand, and then sanctioned the school or the teams or the organizations or whatever it might have been for doing that. So, look, I think it's great because Ohio State tries to do things the right way. Ohio State is somebody who generally colors within the lines. And I think it. Part of it is because it's who Ohio State is. Part of it is just because Ohio State, they don't need to cheat to be good, and they don't want they don't when you do that, you kind of when you pay somebody outside the lines, when you contact somebody outside the line, then you're putting yourself at risk. And I just don't think Ohio State wants to be in that situation. But other schools, and we all know them, they're a little bit more blatant in terms of the way that they're doing this stuff. So I think it's great that they're coming down on this. No, they're not going to catch them all, but they'll catch some of them. And I think for schools, it will definitely, they'll try to change the way that they're doing business, and using these cutouts and using these third parties and these intermediaries isn't going to work anymore, because if it looks bad, they could get a call from the NCAA. And I'm telling you, you don't want to be the one that they hammer, because somebody's going to get hammered first. And that's always the way it is when somebody, like, there's a new tax law coming down, there's a new piece of legislation, there's a new sanction, whatever it's going to be, somebody's going to get it. And I think for these schools, man, you better watch it, because somebody's going to get it, and you don't want it to be you. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, and even if the NCAA comes in and does decide to fine people monetarily for tampering, I mean, the college football is being run by money now, and some of these schools, like millions of dollars, does matter to some of these schools that are operating in this Nevada. And the other thing is, you brought up Ohio State and them operating within the lines as well. The other aspect of that is they're showing good examples, right, to these young men that are in the program, because players know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I promise you, players are hip to and aware of the tampering that's going on within the team and with other coaches and other players. They got friends on other teams. They know, they hear all these things. They know, they are way more aware of what certain teams are in the country are willing to do versus other teams. I promise you. Every football player in the nation is more aware than us fans on what school tampers more than the next school, what school operates in the gray more than these other schools do. Um, the other example of this, Nevada, about why this is so important and why I do believe it's a fair thing to ask. And this needs to happen because this year, more than any other year, you've watched teams be hurt like really bad because of this tampering. Duke, for example, Miami tampered with their quarterback, offered him such a high, he wasn't in the portal, offered him such a high deal on the day that the portal was closing that he took it. Now, if they would have followed the rules, Miami wouldn't have been able to do that, right? And he would still be there. Now Duke is stuck without a quarterback. They had zero time to go look for another quarterback. So, I mean, that's another area in the game that you could really screw teams out of. You can wait till the day the portal's closing, get this huge offer together, throw it to these players that you know are huge on these other teams, and take them right from them. And these other teams don't have an opportunity to go in and fill that void in there. When if everybody operated within the rules, yeah, if your quarterback's in the portal, then obviously you're well aware you need to find a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like you're also working behind the scenes here. And when teams like that do it, I mean, Old Miss did it. LSU, Lane Kiffin is the king of it. I mean, Clemson, what he did to Clemson was that's wild, bro. Like the things that they're just blatantly doing it now. I mean, blatantly coming out and tampering and not even having a second thought about it. Head coaches are doing it, and not even a second thought, man.
Well, no, I think you just named the three biggest offenders. I mean, you had to go down a list of horribles. I mean, Miami, Ole Miss, and LSU are like, right up there at the tip top in terms of doing stuff. What Duke had done to them by Miami is just so dirty. And I think really that's probably the thing was the impetus for this directive that came out. And so Miami, you better be careful, on this because it's an indefensible case. There's no way around it. They tampered with it. Anybody with a functioning brain can see that. And I think for my you talk to these schools, I mean, I know for fans like to think that the money's infinite and it doesn't matter and blah. But I'm telling you, that does cause them some discomfort. You hit them with a 10, 15, $20 million fine or something. Yeah, no, it won't make up for what's going on, but it will cause them some sleepless nights. It'll cause them to kind of reevaluate some of the stuff that they're doing. And I think, obviously the NCAA's got more and in their quiver, but I think I just like the fact that the schools are going back to the NCAA and asking for more policing because I've always believed that, and that's always been one of my core beliefs when I talked about these schools is they want more structure, they want stronger leadership, they want more. They want that, not less. They realize that now this is kind of the wild west, and they're looking for somebody to step up into that role in terms of doing it. And while people like to bag on the NCAA, and I think they've earned a lot of it. Um, I mean, they're the only cops we have. They're the only thin blue line that we have between college sports total anarchy and some form of sanity. So I'm rooting for the NCAA to figure it out. I'm rooting for the NCAA to slam a couple of these teams and make an example. Publicly shame them, hit them with meaningful sanctions, and do some things. But I just thought it was very encouraging that the presidents of the '80s were going back to the NCAA and asking them for this type of guidance, this type of leadership. And I think that to me that's a very positive sign until we ultimately have a commissioner of college football, which I think ultimately is where this thing is headed. There's got to be some sort of czar who can come down, make punishment. They've already talked about streamlining the punishment process and make things quicker, and have somebody just be the decider. Until you have that, the NCAA is the only thing we have. So I'm glad that they're putting some more emphasis on them to provide guidance and to provide some leadership in a time when it feels like everything is kind of crazy. And I'm just glad that they're doing it.
Yeah. Firefish brings up a pretty good thing here. No punishment for other very negative actions by schools, and nothing happens. So I'll believe it when I see it. I totally get that. That is a fair thing to think and a fair thing to say in this situation. And I'll believe it when I see it too. But you see action starting to be taken here. Nevada, you brought up, it's like, okay, well, what's going to be different? tampering's been going on. The NCAA hasn't been doing anything about it. Nevada is gone now. We lost him. I think he's done talking about this. I kind of want to wait until he gets back in before I go on my little rant here. And here he is back in, so I'll continue on my rant. So you ask yourself, like, tampering's been going on, nothing's been being done. So what's going to change? Well, Nevada already brought it up. He said, in the meantime, this is what the NCAA said. In the meantime, the national office will work to speed up the infractions process within the existing rule. This will include streaming various stages of the investigation, such as collecting information from schools or students and athletes more quickly, conducting interviews on a shorter schedule, and or limiting extension requests often made by parties in infraction cases. So, they get all these built up, and what have we heard over and over again? That they don't have enough bodies to police all of these things going on. So they get a huge stack of these things, and you're going to start seeing tampering cases that are 3 years old or eligibility cases that are a couple years old. Well, they're starting to see the importance of, as Nevada said, other schools are bringing this up. Clemson, Dabo Swinney was not the only one that reported tampering this year. I promise. Several schools around the nation have been reporting it. So I think for the most part, everybody is in agreement, right, with no tampering. If you had to take votes on schools and their athletic directors on, okay, should we tamper or not tamper? Do we want the NCAA to have harsher rules, or do we not want them to? I think the overwhelming majority wants them to police tampering more. Like Nevada brought up, when you talk about the NIL stuff, I bet you that's more of a 50-50. You don't have such a hard pull towards, oh, yeah, there should be this guideline. Oh, yeah, there should be this. Teams shouldn't be allowed to pay more than this. They shouldn't be. I bet you those opinions are scattered, but I bet the majority is, of all these Division I schools under the NCAA, is, hey, no, we need to get rid of tampering. And you have these, I don't know, 10, 12, but mainly like 3 or 4 huge offenders that do it all the time. And that's not the norm. You have some people that they're just taking it way too far with it.
I got a question for you. Okay, so you've got the NCAA right now. You got 136 something like that football teams. You got 350 basketball teams. You've got all the other sport. How many people do you believe work in the NCAA enforcement division? If you had to guess off the top of your head, how many people do you think work in the NCAA enforcement division?
I mean, if I had to guess, I would say them jokers got it. I mean, they got to have. There's 136 teams, right? You'd think they have 136 employees, 100, 136, something like that. Am I way off there? They probably got 10 or 20.
They have 31.
What is that, bro?
They have 31 people.
That's not enough to police Ole Miss.
To investigate 136 football teams, 400 basketball teams, and every other sport, tennis and
I didn't even think about that. What I meant to say was thousands. That's what I meant to say.
31.
I was just thinking football. That's why I said 136 teams. Nah, bro. All the sports, all of everything, they got 31.
31 investigators. That's how many they have.
Oh, bro, man, I'd be tampering like a mug. I'd be tampering like a mug, dude. They're not getting us.
And that's why when people like complain about this stuff, it's like, dude, you understand, like it's not the FBI. They don't have like 40,000 people and they can just roll them through, or the CIA. This is like, it's 31 people.
Well, hold up. Think about this too. Like, even during that Michigan investigation, well, shoot, probably 10 of them were working on that for a year. So that means they were down to 21 when that was going on. You know what I'm saying?
It's wow. Like I said, you've got the committees. That's why they have those committees that come on there and they hear the cases and they do this stuff. I'm talking the actual investigators, just the people that are the tip of. There's only 31 of them. So it's people expecting stuff to happen. That's why they have to be. There's got to be whistleblowers. There has to be people that give them information. There has to be, because if you don't have that, they can't build these cases because there's just not enough. There's not enough people to be able to go out there and police all this stuff and then dig into this and go through. Like that's why you need yeah, private investigators, whistleblowers, inquisitive journalists, other people, podcasters. You need other people to dig this stuff up because the NCAA just doesn't have the resources to do it themselves.
Yeah. I don't know. I was always under the assumption, I've always heard that, like, Ohio State, don't they have like people there that monitor like their front office? They don't have an NCAA person in their front office or something like that. Each school doesn't.
Well, they're required. I mean, you got to remember, it's like golf. You play golf. You're a
Okay.
great golfer. Devin is, for people that know, Devin is a terrific golfer.
I just
But
golfed today.
but you call your own penalties in golf, right? Like when you play,
Sometimes.
you
Yeah.
well, yeah. I mean, yeah, except for when you're playing for money, then you don't call them at all. But you're supposed to call your. It's a gentleman's game. You're supposed to call your own
Gotcha.
penalties, and
Okay.
and do
Yeah.
and so so for Ohio State, yeah, they have compliance people in their thing, part of their organization, OSU compliance. You're supposed to call your own balls and strikes, and it's only when there's an issue does the NCAA kind of come in. But or like an PGA rules official comes in, and is like, Devin, you're grounding your club in the sand trap, or you just pick the ball up out of the sand trap and throw it on the green, Devin. You're not supposed to do that. That's when those guys come in and say stuff. But otherwise, you're supposed to call. Yeah, yes. Ohio State has their own people. They call their own bulls and strikes. But when you've got a school like Michigan, where Jim Harbaugh is going to the compliance people and going, "Hey, go to the line and cross it. I don't care anymore about the rules." It's hard to see the rules being adhered to because the NCAA just doesn't have the manpower to track all this stuff down.
So I see. So it's Ohio State's own compliance people. So essentially, they're working for Ohio State, but you're supposed to be, like you just said, policing yourself. So
Correct. Correct.
yeah, I do remember hearing during that Michigan scandal about their compliance office, and I remember diving into that and finding out. You know what I mean? You know what Harbaugh, the conversation he had with them. So that does make sense now that they do ultimately work for the school to police themselves. But Nevada, real quick, off topic, real fast. I've missed a super chat on one of my shows before, and I know it's probably happened again. So if that's ever happened on my show, and I know B Moses would say the same thing, we apologize for that as much as we possibly can. We try our best to see those and pull those up. I mean, most of the time we do shows. I mean, there's 10 shows a week that stream on Scoop, and I think it's very far in between where we miss super chats, but recently we have a couple times, and I apologize for that. We try to do our best. Sometimes they slip through the cracks.
Well,
I always come
do you
back
have
on and read them.
yeah yeah? Do you have the super chats now? We can answer them now. We can like go back over them and answer them.
I don't have the one from last night, but yeah, the ones I have missed, I have always come back on and read either later because I leave the show running or the next show. I have read them every single time, but I'm not aware of the one from last night, or I would pull it up and talk about it. We'll always do that. You know what I mean? Every time. So I'll look into that. I will find that, and we will address that super chat. So
Well, I actually have a
sorry.
cop. I have a copy of it here. It's like, does Devin really drive the ball 385 yards every time? And like, well, I like to answer that question here for Devin and say, not every time, not every time.
Not
Just
every
like 9 times out of 10, every time. Sometimes he'll slip and hit off the hosel and it'll be 345 or something like that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
today, I think I did that, and then they went like 330 or something, but because I topped it, you know what I'm
It's like you
saying?
topped it. Yeah, I got it. I totally understand. Worm burner.
It's
I get
hilarious.
it.
Since I first said that, you'll see people in the chat say, it started off, Devin could hit the ball 300 yards. Now Steely's putting in there, Devin can hit it 470.
He
It's
can
just,
hit it over those mountains, man. You're like Uncle Rico. You know
you
what
see those
I'm
mountains over there?
saying?
I can, I can hit over that. No, listen. Every once in a while, I'll crank one 350, but for the most part, they're sitting at 290, 300. That's it. And they're not always down the middle. That's the bad thing. When you hit it 300 yards, that just means you can go that many more yards in the wrong direction. Okay, folks? So it's not. That's why Devin golfs 3 over, maybe even. or like 15, 16 over. Those are, I don't have it in the middle. There's no in the middle for me.
Those are still very, very good scores, Devin. Very, very good.
It's bad or not bad. But um all right. So I think we addressed that. The tampering stuff, Nevada. We do have one super chat. I'll pull that up here in a moment. But yeah, it's just it's something that I think everybody would agree, needs to be addressed, right? Can you see an argument the other way that, hey, just let him go? Or do you see any positive in not policing tampering? Like, that's just insanity, correct? To allow tampering to go on. There's nothing about tampering that's going to make college football a better sport. Am I right in that? Or,
Well, I think the only counter argument to policing it is that if you can't police all of it, then why are you policing some of you know what I'm saying? Like, well, you're only going to catch a few of the people, and 99% of the time you're not going to catch anybody. And I just think, look, you've got to take small steps. You've got to, take steps in the right direction. And anything that adheres to the rules, anything that that slows down the craziness of college football, because I just feel like we're all kind of taken aback by the rate of change in college football right now. You think about, we got hit with NIL, we got hit with transfer portal, we got hit with expanded playoff. There's been a lot of stuff that we as college football fans have had to absorb at the same time, all designed to create uncertainty in the sport. It used to be so great when you have a freshman come in and you knew that he was going to be there at least 3 years or 4 years or 5 years or 6 years and play there at your school, and you knew who they were, and you could talk about your freshmen and, wow, wait till this guy's a junior. And now it's really changed. Now it's more of it's a year every year thing, and you're talking about, hey, how good is Terry Moore going to be? How good is Earl Little going to be? How good is the next guy going to be? Because you can't really think about things down the road. And so I think cleaning up the tampering thing, at least slowing it down, I think is a good thing for college football, because I just think as college football fans, we've all had to absorb an awful lot of change in a very short period of time, and I'm not sure that's the best thing for the sport.
yeah, Devat, I want to get your opinion on this. Dang it, man. I tried Googling it and my Google's screwing up. But Jennifer brought up something interesting. She said the NCAA cannot punish without cold, hard evidence. Is that true? This isn't a courtroom, right? Like, can't you? It's not quite like that. Or do you have anything on that?
Well, I think they need evidence because they're always worried about, will it pass legal muster, and but again, they can get this hard evidence from the schools. And think about the whole Jim Tressel thing, the whole tattoo gate. That all came from Ohio State. That all came from
Yeah.
Ohio State turning over the email. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a completely 100% Ohio State generated thing. That was not some crack NCAA, Sparky McGee who went in there and, found the evidence and, pulled it out like Woodward and Bernstein and broke the case of Jim Tressel and the knowledge of the tattoos. That all came from Ohio State. So I think you can get that cold hard evidence. You just do a record request. You got it, and you hope that the schools are responsive. And I think, most of the time the people that work in compliance are well intentioned, and they're not going to destroy evidence. If there was conversations, and generally there is some sort of a paper trail, whether it be text message communications, cellular communications, email communication. There's some sort of thing, indicative of that there was something. And I think, like you said, it's not, you're not talking about, um, it's not past reasonable doubt. This isn't about life and liberty. This is more like a civil case. So I think if there's a preponderance of the evidence, and there's 51% of it that indicates you have 9 phone calls between an agent and the Mark Pantoni of Miami, the day of, and then that agent who's representing the quarterback brings that, what I'm saying? Like, I think you can look at that and kind
Yeah.
of go, wow, I don't know. I don't have a tape of the phone call, but this seems to me pretty compelling that this is what was going. Oh no, I was talking about, this other guy and this other guy. I didn't even bring up the. Nah, I think the NCAA can look at that and go, we don't believe that, and hit you. So I think it's somewhere between cold hard evidence and preponderance of it, but I think that's where the NCAA lies.
Yeah, no, I literally Googled up and looked the NCAA up, and you pretty much nailed it. The preponderance of evidence. They only need credible evidence. It's not like hard proof, but I do understand, you know, um, the chat there and saying that for the most part they feel like, I think that leans on the NCAA hasn't done much in the past, so everybody feels like they need cold hard evidence. That's not necessarily the case here in these situations, but we will see. Nevada, what one last thing here? I pull these up. What do you think the response is going to be from the first fan base's team that gets charged with tampering? Because I mean, there's literally been open public tampering going on, and that first team that gets it is going to feel like, what the flip? Why me? Everybody's over here doing it, and you have chosen me. You think they're going to come out with like 10 teams, or it's going to be one team? Like, that day is gonna somebody's gonna be not happy.
No, I think it's a great point, and no, but I would bet, if you ask me to handicap the field right now, I'd be
Yeah.
like, Miami right at the top of the list, LSU
Okay.
second, and I'm going to go Ole Miss third. And I think
Yep.
those are those three. So if you're one of those three schools, I'll take those three schools and then the field, everybody else. But one of those three schools is going
Yeah.
to get it, and I think they'll scream like they always do, and then they'll try to run to some friendly judge in those regions to give them a temporary restraining order again. I mean, yeah, we all know how this stuff kind of gets played out, but no, I think they'll every now and then this stuff happens. I remember when I'm old enough to remember when Phil Fulmer, like in the SEC, there used to be a just an unwritten rule that the schools do not rat on each other. And then Philip Fulmer, the coach for Tennessee, came out and was just like blowing the whistle on all these other SEC schools. And man, that people lost their mind, like he had broken the vow of omerta in the mafia or something like that. But I'm sure a lot of these schools will feel singled out. But yeah, I'm gonna go Miami, LSU, Ole Miss, top three potential offenders, and I think Miami is squarely in the crosshairs of the NCAA.
I am going LSU first. I think LSU is going to be the one to get it first, then Miami, then Old Miss. That's
Okay,
that's the order in which
I
I
respect
think
that.
it's going to be happening.
I like that. I mean,
I'm trying to.
I'd say Michigan, but Michigan they suck so bad at recruiting. They can't even tamper well. Like Michigan's not even good at
No,
tampering.
at this point, I think the NCAA is gonna just to try to attempt to help them even more get back to relevance. Like, they need all the help they can get. You know what I mean? Like, they're probably encouraging them to tamper because they make pretty good money for people. But if they go the route they've been going, they're not gonna have any viewers because they're bad. It's not good. They're
They need
very
to get
bad.
Bryce Underwood on like Weight Watchers or something like that. That's what they need to tamper with. Like call Weight Watchers and be like, "Hey, we got a really fat quarterback up here in Ann Arbor. Can you like do something about this?" And they do that. I think that'd be the biggest thing they can help them out with.
Oh, that's hilarious. Nevada, I found the super chat that was
All right,
missed. That's what I've
let's
been
do it.
doing. I've been double tasking. So here we go.
Let's do it.
Geo, thanks for the $5, brother. I can't pull it up on the screen. Let me know if this was it. I was talking about your guys' show yesterday, Matt Patricia, right? Think about this. Between Matt Patricia, LJ, Arthur Smith, and Tim Walton, their coaching experience between college and the NFL is 113 plus years. Do you remember that super chat from yesterday, Nevada, or was that?
I was not on the show yesterday, so oh no, I was on the show yesterday, but I don't remember that super chat.
Okay,
So
so yeah, then it was. I just wanted to make sure it was missed, but that's
yes,
insane. That's good information. I've always wondered how much NFL experience is actually on this coaching staff that Ryan Day has. 113 years, bro. That's
yeah,
intense.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's a lot of years. It's we've talked about it before, but to have two former NFL head coaches as your coordinators, I just think experience is one of the biggest things. It's one of the reasons why the helping technician's so excited about the offensive line. We talked about having 100+ returning starts on that, but having 100+ years of coaching experience, it stands in stark contrast to what we had last year with a relatively inexperienced first time offensive coordinator. And I think our offense suffered as a result, because I think coaching matters, and coaching at the college level is almost determinative of success. And so having that many years, yeah, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, I asked VB coach this yesterday, which, by the way, VB coach has been killing it on the shows. People love him. Chat, if you guys listen to the Monday show with VB coach, let me know in the chat. Do you enjoy it? I think it's been great. But anyway, Nevada, I feel like, high schools are starting to go more, operating more like colleges, and colleges are starting to operate more like NFL. Ohio State, Ryan Day leading that charge. One of the reasons why, like, for instance, why has this never happened before? It's been attempted in college football before, but the players, the lack of experience, the lack of maturity, it's always been too much for a lot of the players. Is that fair to say? The complexity of the schemes, the time it takes to, instill all that scheme and plays from the NFL. Would that be a fair statement to say as to why it's taken so long to make that transition?
Well, yeah, for sure. And I think that's why when you're seeing this movement to these more veteran teams and these older teams and having these experienced
Yep.
guys, I just think it's really, kind of the way the game's, moving right now. I think you can do more stuff when you've got veterans, and as good as young players are, they're still young players. And that's why, like I said, getting guys with 3, 4, 5 years of experience under their belt, when you get them to come to Ohio State, I think these NFL coaches are going to be able to do more exciting things with them, give them more on their plate, and transition Ohio State to a more pro style offense and defense. But it starts with veteran players. Absolutely top of the list.
And plus, Nevada, like Mylan Graham said, none of the Ohio State's football players even go to class anymore. So they just, instead of that, they can just focus on the schemes, right?
Exactly. Myron Graham, he nailed it. We don't even go to school there. We
Don't
don't play
even go.
school. We don't play no school here.
AF Pride, thanks for the 4.99. Scum cheated for 3 years. This is just a player changing teams. Nothing will happen until the NCAA actually does something. It's all hoopla. OH.
Hoopla, io, hoopla,
Nevada, I'll let you
hoopla.
go first on that one, man. I'll let you go
Well,
first.
no, I agree. I think we're all waiting for it to happen. But I do think, I think the NCAA's been more effective than people want to give them credit for. But I understand the skepticism, and I just think that when the NCAA is getting the directive from the ADs and from the presidents, there's a pretty good indication that they're going to do something, because they're being told by their bosses, we want you to call more balls and strikes, so they're going to call more balls and strikes. I really, but I agree. I'm along with you. We'll see it when it happens.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think the difference here is that the vast majority of these athletic departments and teams and whatnot are on board with the NCAA cracking down on this. You know what I mean? It's a lot of the times there's certain situations in certain conferences, and other teams and other conferences don't have the time, don't really care because it didn't affect them. This affects everybody. One cheating scandal, it does affect all of college, but not directly, like, we've experienced in the past. And I think us Ohio State fans, obviously, it's fair to say, we have a different type of feeling towards it, maybe stronger feelings towards the NCAA being an absolute joke. But yes, I'm right there with you on we will wait and see. They put these things out here. There's teams calling in. They say they're going to start expediting stuff. I think they're going to, but I've also thought they were going to do stuff before and didn't, but we shall see. Steely, thanks for the $1.99. Dev hit a 470-yard shot. He sent me the video. Yeah, for sure, man. I did it, but no, that's just. I mean, I don't know what to do here, Nevada. Do I back this up and say it's true? What do I do? You think?
Yeah, just go with it, man. Just
Okay.
lean into it, Devin. Just be like, yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
This happened.
Yeah.
This did happen.
Yeah. If you guys haven't seen the video, it's going viral right now. Just go to Google. Don't go to Google and type in Devin Anderson, but go.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that. But just look. Let's move on. Next super
Let's
chat.
move.
Here we go.
Let's move. Let's move. Moving on. Moving on.
Nick Thanks for the $1.99. Buffalo Trace is all hype. It's only mid. Not sure where that came from. Nevada, can you clue me in on where this super chat has come from? Is there a conversation in the chat or whatnot? I do have to tell you that I completely disagree with Buffalo Trace being only mid. I think it's absolute trash. But, Nevada, we can't hear you.
Buffalo Trace. Buffalo
The
Trace.
the the
The
the the
the
the
the
bourbon,
dis, the,
right?
the distillery, right? The distillery Buffalo Trace. You're saying it's mid? I'm not agreeing with that. I'm throwing the flag. I'm throwing the flag on that. I don't think it's hype. I think it's terrific.
No. Listen, when I hear Buffalo Trace, maybe I'm off here. I don't drink like that, but isn't Buffalo Trace, if you go to a bar and you order Buffalo Trace, isn't it a super cheap, really cheap shot?
Well, I don't know
Or
about
am I
that, but I
tripping?
mean they've got some. I mean, I've actually been to the distillery. It's in Frankfort, Kentucky, and I've been there.
Okay.
And the stuff that I drank was really good. So I don't know if it's the cheap stuff. Maybe they have a cheap stuff and they have good stuff, but the stuff I drank was, and I'm not really that guy, but it was really good and I enjoyed it. And
Dude,
I thought it was high end, but what the hell do I know?
yeah. Well, I mean, right now, online, a bottle of Buffalo Trace bourbon is only $175. So apparently I was dead wrong. Buffalo Trace. Yeah, I'm off there. I was thinking it was like one specific type of bourbon. No, they got a bunch of different kinds. So yeah, like I said, I drink not that much, so don't really know, man. But either way, Nevada apparently trying to get a deal with Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace, if you're interested in any sponsorship on our show, reach out to
Yeah,
Nevada
we
at
will come.
Buckeye Scoop.
I will come down there and just and hang out. We can drink that Eagle Rare and be done, man. I'm ready to go.
Ooh, okay, there you go. Hold up. Here we go. Here we go. What up, Jim? Thanks for the 4.99, brother. Massive, 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 and massive. Love y'all. Love you, Jim. Appreciate you, brother. Been around for a long time. That's my brother, Jim. Text back and forth. He's hip to Tally over here. So good man. Good man. Good seeing you in the chat, brother. Nevada?
Yeah, we just appreciate you guys so much and appreciate you guys being here. You guys make the show. The show would be nothing but Devin and I just yelling at each other the whole time if it wasn't for you guys. So we really appreciate you guys coming in and making this a terrific podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Appreciate you in the chat every single night. We do our best to keep y'all entertained. We do our best to give you guys information before any other YouTube show. But I want to remind you guys before we talk about the information on here, it is posted on the Buckeye Scoop message board. Again, if you're not over there on that, I suggest going over, giving it a try. It is worth the money over there as well. I think. Okay, no, we didn't. I thought we got another super chat. But anyway, guys, Nevada, you got any final thoughts on tampering? Is the NCAA actually going to do anything? They put the memo out. We got teams doing it. Any other thoughts on that before we shut this thing down?
I'm going with they're going to do something. I'm on team NCAA is going to do something. So we'll see. We can revisit this in a few months, and if nothing happens, we can all laugh at Nevada. But I'm going to go on team. They're going to make an example out of somebody.
Yep. I'm joining that team. So now we have two players on this team. I do think they are going to do something as well for reasons I've already stated, guys. But listen, we appreciate the heck out of you guys for coming on here. Next week, Brady Edmonds is going to be joining the show. Jameer Perez, the big root, he's going to come on. He's going to tell us about his experience in winter workouts right now. Dude's lost 20 pounds getting it in. So you guys want a little bit of a firsthand experience as to what these freshmen go through, hit that alert bell on Buckeye Scoop. Stay tuned. We will have that for you. But on the way out, hit that like button for us. Hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on Spreaker or Apple Podcasts, give us another like button as well. And appreciate everybody. God bless y'all. Love y'all. Go Buckeyes. OH.
IO.